What's up? Welcome to the Stack. Welcome back. If you've been here before, I'm Neon Mushroom, and today we do have a special game. It's not just normal EDH Commander gameplay. I mean, it is EDH Commander gameplay, but today we are doing the budget game, the $100 budget game for the Strixhaven set release. So any of you who are, what's the word for it, veteran viewers of this channel, you'll know that that means something's coming in a week, something bigger than this, because this is just kind of recorded and done up like a normal game. More about that at the end of the video, but that's almost everything you should need to know. There's a caveat to the $100 decks thing. These decks have a base budget of $100, but because one of us is playing a 3-color deck and the other's playing a 5-color deck, the 3-color deck got a $25 budget boost just so it could keep up on mana-based stuff, and the 5-color deck got a $50 boost, which I think was abused. Maybe I'll talk more about that at the end of the video. Maybe not, because it comes up in our live stream, which I'm gonna have some information at the end of the video. That's all you need to know. That's all you guys should need to know. So let's go ahead and take a look at who's playing. You probably already know what decks they're playing. You looked at the thumbnail, so you probably know that too. And what opening hands they decided to keep, which you don't know because you can't see into the future, and our normal upkeep stuff.
As always, if you like this show or any of our other shows on YouTube, liking, sharing, and subscribing helps us out immensely. If you like our content and don't mind that extra mile, you can always support us over on Patreon, over at patreon.com/MTGTheStack.
No silly jokes, no funny stuff today. I'm burning on empty with all the editing we have this week, so I'll just say it. Tanner Hahn, thank you so much. You're a recent patron. We appreciate it. That's all I got for you. No funny man today. Was I ever funny? I don't know.
Comment down below any of your thoughts and feelings, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Okay, first up we've got Guy Scott, and he's playing Killian, Ink Duelist. Now because all these commanders are new, I will be reading each of them for you. Killian is a 2/2 for 2 Orzhov colors, and he's a human warlock with lifelink and menace. With the passive ability, spells you cast that target a creature cost 2 less to cast. Now because of this, guys decided to build Killian as a Voltron style commander using Enchantress like effects, all while being able to play a control role with removal because Killian makes both the enchantments that he wants to enchant Killian with and the removal spells cost 2 less. Guy has opted to keep a 7-card hand with a Swamp, a Plains, Path of Ancestry, Apostle's Blessing, Open the Armory, Spectral Ward, and Sigil of the Empty Throne. Next up there's me, and I'll be playing Rootha, Mercurial Artist, and she is a 3-drop 1/4 for Izzet colors and 1, and she's an Orc Shaman. She has the activated ability of pay 2, return her to your hand, and then you can copy an instant or sorcery you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Now because of this, I've decided to use Rootha to build a type of storm deck that wants to accrue value with draw spells and removal in the early game, and eventually move towards either a Blue Sun Zenith loop win, or some type of a Ghostly Flicker and Dualcaster Mage win. Now I've also decided to keep a 7-card hand, including Temple of Epiphany, Mountain, Swiftwater Cliffs, Anger of the Gods, a Long-Term Plans, Arcane Signet, and a Prophetic Bolt. Next up we have the one and only Calvin Traeger playing Extus, Oriq Overlord, or more specifically he's playing it for the backside of the card, which is a sorcery called Awaken the Blood Avatar. This is going to be an 8-drop sorcery for Rakdos colors and 6, and it reads, as an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. This spell costs 2 less for each creature you sacrifice this way. When you cast it, and if it resolves, each opponent sacrifices a creature, and you create a 3/6 black and red avatar creature token with haste, and whenever this creature attacks, it deals 3 damage to each opponent. Calvin will be keeping a 7-card opener, including Command Tower, Nomad Outpost, Garna the Bloodflame, Jarina Kudro, Generous Gift, Impulsive Pilferer, and Grim Initiate. Last but not least, we have Ajdin playing Codie, Vociferous Codex. Don't mind me, I don't actually know how to read. Codie reads, you cannot cast permanent spells, and then it has an activated ability where you tap it and you can add Wooburg to your mana pool. Then, when you cast your next spell this turn, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile an instant or sorcery with lesser mana value. Until end of turn, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Put each other card exiled this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. Now because of the way Codie works, Ajdin has decided to build the deck as kind of a control deck in the early game, and when it gets to the late game it wants to try to either win with Approach of the Second Sun or Maze's End combo. With Ajdin that makes 4 of us that keep 7-card hands, and his hand includes Thriving Isle, a Forest, Explore, Soothsaying, Deafening Clarion, Solve the Equation, and Approach of the Second Sun. Alright guy, you know the drill, hand these out, don't give anyone the power of choice.
Wait a minute.
All I want to do is
myself.
choose. No, no
Let me
choosing.
choose.
No, yeah, I'll choose for you.
Choice
Got
is
it.
an illusion.
Let
Don't
me
worry.
choose.
No.
Come on.
Choice isn't a illusion.
Alright, I choose this. Wait, hold on. I chose that.
Oh.
Whichever one makes you feel better.
1, 2, 3, flip.
Never
It's Guy.
mind.
Guy's first. Budget game. Look at these maths. It's gonna happen again. Yeah. You're up.
Alright, Guy 1 card game, so he's going to start and he'll lead on a tapped Path of Ancestry and just pass to me. I'll draw for turn and play Temple of Epiphany tapped. I'll check the top card, decide that I do like what I see. I'll put it back on top and just pass the turn to Calvin, who draws for turn. Then he's going to drop a command tower as his land for turn. He'll tap it for red, and then he's going to cast a Grim Initiate. With nothing else, he's just going to pass the turn right to Ajdin, who will draw his card for turn, and then he's going to play a Gruul Guildgate tapped.
He's the threat.
I'm the threat.
He's 10% there.
9 away.
All on tap.
Yep.
I'll draw.
Leading off the second turn cycle, Guy's going to play a basic Plains as his land for turn. Then I'll tap out and cast Killian, his commander. He'll scry 1 because of the Path of Ancestry. Then I'll put that card right back on top and just pass the turn to me, where I'll untap and draw my card for turn. Then I'm going to play a basic Mountain as my land for turn, and I'll tap out and cast an Arcane Signet. And I'll just pass the turn back to Calvin, who will untap and draw his card for turn. Then he's going to go into combat, and he picks Ajdin as an enemy. He's going to swing at him for 1 damage. Ajdin has no blockers, so he takes 1 and drops to 39. Then Calvin will play a Temple of Silence tapped. He's going to decide that he does like what he sees and puts it back on top. Then, still in the second main phase, he'll tap his command tower for red again and play Impulsive Pilferer, and just pass the turn back to Ajdin. Ajdin will untap, draw his card, play a basic Forest as his land for turn. Then Ajdin's going to tap for 2, and he's going to cast Explore. This is going to allow him to draw a card and put a land into play. In this case, he's going to choose Thriving Isle, and the other color he's going to choose is white. After that, we'll move back to Guy's turn. He'll draw a card and play a basic Swamp as his land for turn. Then he's going to start to use Killian and tap out, and he's going to cast Spectral Ward. It costs 2 less, he puts it on Killian, goes to combat and swings at Calvin. He can't block, so he takes 4 and goes to 36. Guy will gain 4 and pass to me. I'll draw my card, play Swiftwater Cliffs as my land for turn, gain a life, and just pass it right back to Calvin, who will draw his card, play a Nomad Outpost tapped, and I'll head into combat, and he's going to attack Ajdin for 2 damage. Ajdin has no blocks, so he's going to drop down to 37, and then with nothing else, Calvin's going to pass right back to Ajdin.
Chat, we didn't draw a land.
God damn it.
Expedition, man.
Yeah, it's all those.
We did draw this. We're going to crack this.
Yeah.
This is basically a land. We're going to get
Basically
Maze's
this.
End, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to play Maze's End.
After getting his Maze's End, Calvin decides he would like to help Ajdin shuffle. He reaches for the deck and knocks the entire thing over.
What are you doing to me? What are you doing to me?
Luckily, I can edit most of it out, but we spend like 5 minutes trying to get Ajdin's deck to look right, and after that point, Ajdin is going to continue his turn, and he's going to play the Maze's End as his land for turn, tapped. Then we're going to pass back to Guy, who will untap and draw his card for turn. Guy's going to play another basic Swamp as his land for turn. Then he's going to tap for 1 white, and he's going to cast Ajdin of Life's Bounty. Again, I cannot read. He'll head to combat, he'll turn Killian sideways at Calvin again, gaining 4 life, and with nothing else, he'll try to pass to me, but before he can, I'm going to cast a Long-Term Plans. I'm going to search my library, and I'm going to wind up grabbing a copy of Metallurgic Summonings. I'll put that in my library, the 3rd card from the top. With nothing else, we're going to move straight to my turn, where I'll untap, draw a card for turn, and then I'll play Exotic Orchard as my land for turn. After that, I'll just pass to Calvin, and he'll untap and draw as well. He'll play Graven Cairns as his land for turn. Then he finally decides it's time. He's going to tap out and sacrifice both of his creatures to cast the backside of his commander, Awaken the Blood Avatar. Now there are a few triggers that happen because he sacked 2 creatures. He's going to make a 1/1 zombie army token, and he's going to make a treasure. Then I do have a response to Calvin's Awaken the Blood Avatar. I'll tap for 5, and I will cast Prophetic Bolt, targeting Ajdin of Life's Bounty. Guy has a really cool response to this. He is going to pay 2 life and tap for 0 and cast Apostle's Blessing, giving it pro red, and it's reduced because of the Killian, so we didn't pay any mana. Then that's going to get protection from red, and we are actually going to resolve the Awaken the Blood Avatar, so everyone will sacrifice a creature, then Calvin will put his token into play. After all that, Calvin's obviously going to decide to rezone his commander, and after that point he's going to head into combat, and he's going to attack Guy with the Blood Avatar. That's going to trigger, we're all going to take 3 damage, then Guy's going to take 3 from combat, dropping back down to 40, and we'll move back to Ajdin's turn, where he'll draw a card for turn, and just pass right back to Guy. Guy's going to untap, draw his card for turn, then he's going to tap for 2 mana, and he's going to cast Guild. He's going to target Calvin's Blood Avatar, and then Guy is going to wind up with a gold token after everything is said and done. After this point, Guy's going to head right back into combat, and he's going to keep on hitting Calvin for 4, dropping him to 28. Guy will go up to 44. Then in his second main phase, he'll cast Open the Armory. He's going to search his library for an Eldrazi conscription and put it into his hand, and with nothing else, he'll pass the turn to me. I'll untap, draw my card for turn, I'll play a basic mountain as my land for turn, and with nothing else, I'll just pass back to Calvin, who draws, plays his own basic mountain, then he's going to tap for 4 mana, and he's going to encore the Impulsive Pilferer out of the graveyard. That's going to make him 3 copies of Impulsive Pilferer, and he's not even going to go to combat with them. He's going to sacrifice all of them, that's going to trigger them, so they're going to drop 3 treasures, and he's going to once again awaken the Blood Avatar. That's going to have everybody sacrificing a creature, so Guy finally loses his Killian. Then Calvin's going to finish resolving the spell, and he's going to make a 3/6 Blood Avatar token. He is once again going to opt to rezone his commander, then he's going to head straight to combat, and he's going to turn the Blood Avatar sideways at Guy once again. It'll trigger, we'll all take 3, then Guy will take an additional 3, dropping to 38, and before we can move to Ajdin's turn, he's going to activate Maze's End. That's going to be going back to his hand, he'll search his library, he's going to get a Boros Guildgate into play tapped, then he'll untap and draw his card for turn. Ajdin's going to start by redeploying his Maze's End, and then while he can, he's going to tap for 2 to play a permanent Crashing Drawbridge. Then he'll tap for 1 blue, and he's going to play a Soothsaying, and with nothing else, he'll just pass the turn right back to Guy. We all yell at Ajdin for his messy board state, then Guy's going to untap, draw his card for turn, and try to pass to me. But before he can, I decide I want to tap for 4 mana, and I'm going to cast Fact or Fiction. I'm going to choose Ajdin, and I'm going to reveal the top 5 cards of my library to him. He's going to split them up into 2 piles. One pile is going to consist of Counterspell and Metallurgic Summonings. The other is going to be Island, Path, and Talisman. I'll choose to take the pile with the lands and the Talisman, and I'll explain why I just binned the card that I tutored for after the game. I'll draw my card for turn, then I'll tap for 2, and I'm going to cast Talisman of Creativity. Then I'll tap for 3 mana, I'll forget to lose 1 off of the Talisman because I need double blue, and I'll cast Baron, bouncing Calvin's Blood Avatar. After that, I'll drop Path of Ancestry as my land for turn, and with nothing else, I'll just pass right back to Calvin. Calvin's going to untap, and then he's going to play a basic Plains as his land for turn. Then he wants to do some more ramping, so he's going to tap for 2 and play Arcane Signet. After that, he's going to tap the rest of his available lands, and he's going to cast Jirina Kudro. Ajdin has a response because he's such a very funny guy. He's going to activate Soothsaying for 1 to look at the top card of his library. Then Calvin's going to have his Jirina Kudro trigger. He's going to make 2 1/1 humans. And with nothing else, he'll just pass right back to Ajdin. Ajdin will untap, draw his card for turn, and then in his first main phase, he's going to activate Maze's End. This way, he can actually go ahead and get one of his guild gates, in this case Golgari Guildgate, but then he's also able to redeploy the Maze's End as his land for turn and pass to Guy. Guy will draw his card for turn, then he's going to tap for 4 and cast Ajani's Chosen. With nothing else, he's going to pass the turn back to me, so I'll untap, draw my card for turn, then I'll play Volatile Fjord as my land for turn. After that, I'll tap for 3 mana, and then I'm going to cast Anger of the Gods. No one has any responses, so that's going to wipe the entire board. Once that's finished resolving, I'll put it in the bin, then I'll tap for 3, and I'll finally cast my commander, Rootha. I used Path of Ancestry to do it, so that'll let me scry a card. I'm going to decide to put that card on the bottom of my library, and with nothing else, I'll just pass the turn right back to Calvin. Calvin will untap and draw his card for turn, then he's going to tap for 3, and he's going to cast Fanatical Devotion. That's going to resolve and he has no further plays, so he's going to pass the turn right back to Ajdin, who untaps, draws his card, and then he's going to activate Maze's End once again. He'll bounce it to his hand, he's going to search his library for a land. In this case, he's going to wind up getting an Izzet Guildgate, and after that, he's going to keep to the same play pattern and drop his Maze's End again as his land for turn. After that, he'll go to discard and just pass the turn back to Guy, who draws his card for turn. Then Guy's going to tap for 3 and cast Unquestioned Authority, and he's going to enchant the Crashing Drawbridge with it. He did all of that just so he could draw a card. He has no further actions, so he's going to try to pass to me. Before he can, Calvin's going to try to Chaos Warp my Rootha. I have a response. I'm going to cast Arcane Denial. That's going to counter it, and then we're going to move back to my turn. I'm going to untap, but on my upkeep we have a delayed trigger, so I'm going to draw 1 card. Calvin's going to choose to draw 2. Then I'll draw my card for turn. In my first main phase, I'll drop an island as my land for turn. Then I'm going to tap for 4 mana and cast Jace's Sanctum. After that point, I have no further actions, so I'll pass back to Calvin. Calvin will draw his card for turn and play a basic mountain as his land for turn. Then he's going to count out and tap for 5 mana to play Increasing Devotion. That's going to have him making 5 1/1 human soldier tokens, but they're not going to stick around for very long. Calvin's then going to tap some mana and sack the lion's share of those tokens in order to once again awaken the Blood Avatar. When that goes onto the stack, we're all going to have to sacrifice a creature, so Ajdin sacrifices his drawbridge, I'll sacrifice Rootha, and we will both decide to rezone our commanders, and Calvin will drop the Blood Avatar token. After that, Calvin's going to head into combat, attack Guy with the Blood Avatar, trigger, we'll all take 3, then Guy will take 3 from combat, and before he passes the turn, Ajdin will activate Soothsaying for 2, put the cards back, and then untap, and he's going to draw his card for turn. After that, he's going to play Orzhov Guildgate as his land for turn tapped. Then Ajdin's going to tap out and cast Approach of the Second Sun. This has him gaining 7 life, and then Approach is going to put itself back in Ajdin's library as the 7th card from the top.
Go ahead, guys. Don't mind me. I'm just gonna scry 7.
After some good old-fashioned shit talking, on Guy's turn, he's going to tap for 4, and he's going to play Archon of Sun's Grace. After that, he has no further action, so he'll pass to me, where I'll untap, draw, and play a basic mountain as my land for turn. Then I'm going to do a pro gamer move and tap for 5 to cast my commander again. My intention was to scry off of the path, and I did not use the path to cast it. After that, we'll go to Calvin's turn, where he'll play a basic mountain.
That's annoying.
Poor thing. Deal with it.
How dare you?
How dare you cast with one
How
creature?
dare you fly? Think of flying.
He's not even a threat anymore. Ajdin can kill us the turn after next.
Yeah, the turn after next. I have a plan if people let me.
I hope so.
Hey man, I do.
What do you mean you got a plan? Stop it.
After announcing his ambiguous plan, Calvin's going to count out and tap for a total of 9 mana and flashback Increasing Devotion. That's going to net him a total of 10 1/1 human tokens. Not to worry though, they're not going to stick around for very long. Calvin's immediately going to sacrifice a ton of them, and he is once again going to awaken the Blood Avatar. That's going to trigger, so we're both going to sacrifice our creatures. Then Calvin's going to rezone his commander, and he will finally drop the Blood Avatar token. At this point, Calvin's going to want to move into combat. He's going to turn everything he's got sideways at Ajdin. That's going to trigger both Blood Avatars, so we'll all take 6, then Ajdin will take 7 more. After that, he'll pass the turn right back to Ajdin. Ajdin's going to untap and draw his card for turn. Then in his first main phase, he's going to tap for 3 mana. 2 of them are going to be red, so he can cast his own Anger of the Gods. Calvin will respond by regenerating each of his Blood Avatars twice by sacking them to the Fanatical Devotion. And then with nothing else, we'll move to Guy's turn, where he'll draw his card for turn, sacrifice his gold for mana, tap out, and he's going to wind up casting Sigil of the Empty Throne. With nothing else, Guy's just going to pass the turn back to me, so I'll untap and draw my card for turn. Then I'm going to tap for 7 mana, this time actually using the Path of Ancestry to cast Rootha, and I get to scry now. This time I'll keep the scry on top, and then I'll play a basic island as my land for turn. And with nothing else, I'll pass back to Calvin, who will draw a card for turn. Then he's going to start by tapping for 2 mana. He'll use that to cast Tithe Taker. Ajdin has a response. Before that hits the battlefield, Ajdin wants to tap for 5 in order to Soothsaying for 5. Then the Tithe Taker enters the battlefield, so Calvin's going to tap for 4 and cast Sorin, Lord of Innistrad. Sorin resolves, so Calvin's going to -2 the Sorin, making an emblem that gives all of his creatures +1/+0. Then he's going to head into combat and attack Ajdin with both of his Blood Avatars. They both trigger, so we all take 6. Then we go to combat damage, so Ajdin takes an additional 8, dropping to 8 life. After that, we pass the turn to Ajdin, where he's going to draw a card for turn. Then he's going to tap out a bunch of mana. He's going to wind up casting a Doom Blast. Calvin has a response, obviously. He's going to sacrifice the Tithe Taker in order to give one of his creatures a regen shield. That's going to create a 1/1 Flying Spirit token, which he's then going to sacrifice to give the other token regenerate. After that, he chooses one of the tokens to stay alive, so my Rootha at least dies. Then we move over to Guy's turn, where he's going to tap for 3 mana, and he's going to deploy Parasitic Impetus onto one of Calvin's tokens. This is going to trigger Sigil of the Empty Throne, so Guy's going to wind up with a 4/4 Angel, and then he's going to pass the turn back to me, where I'll untap and draw my card for turn. I'm going to start by tapping for 2 to cast Ghostly Flicker for its reduced cost, to bounce 2 islands, and then I'll trigger Jace's Sanctum, and I will scry a card. I decide I do not want the card, and Ghostly Flicker is going to remain on the stack, because then I'm going to tap for 3, and I'm going to cast Duelcaster Mage. That's going to copy the Ghostly Flicker, which in turn will flicker a land and the Duelcaster. This is going to create a loop where the Duelcaster keeps flickering the Ghostly Flicker, and the Ghostly Flicker keeps flickering the Duelcaster and a land, allowing me to generate infinite mana. Now there's no such thing as infinity in Magic, so I have to decide on a number, which ends up being 8,000. Then I'll use some of that mana in addition to Path to cast Rootha, and I forget to scry off of the land. Then I'll use some more of the mana to cast Practical Research, and I'll pay 2 to bounce Rootha to my hand and copy it. The first copy of Practical Research will trigger Jace's Sanctum, so I'll get to scry a card. I decided that I want this card, so I'll put it back on top. Then I'm going to draw 4 cards. After that, I have to discard. I wind up discarding 2 lands, and then we go to the second Practical Research, where I will draw 4 cards, and I wind up discarding a Faithless Looting. After that, we'll bin the Practical Research, and then with some more of my mana, I'll redeploy Rootha. Then I'm going to play Creative Outburst with more of that mana, copying it with Rootha by bouncing it to my hand, and I'm going to choose to resolve both of the damage triggers first as a shortcut. I'm going to hit Calvin for a total of 10. Calvin will take the 10 and drop down to 18. Then we're going to start to actually resolve the outbursts. I'll look at the top 5 cards of my library, I will select one, then I'll put the other 4 on the bottom, and I'll do the same for the second creative outburst. After all of that's said and done, I'm going to use 4 of that arbitrarily high amount of mana to play Archaeomancer, and I'll use it to pick up Practical Research and redeploy Rootha. Then I'm going to cast that Practical Research and use Rootha to bounce it to my hand and copy the Practical Research. I'll scry one off the Sanctum and I will put it on the bottom of my library. Then I'll resolve the first Practical Research, drawing 4 cards, and I'm going to wind up discarding 2 cards. Then for the second Practical Research, I will draw 4, and then I will wind up discarding 2 more cards. After that, I'll bin the research, and then I'll cast Expansion Explosion for the explosion half for enough damage to kill Calvin and pick up my entire library. This is all going to resolve, so Calvin dies, I pick up my deck, and with the rest of my mana, I will cast Crackle with Power where X equals a lot to kill both Ajdin and Guy, leaving me as the winner of today's game. Yay, the Storm deck won. Some of you are probably like, that was sweet. Some of you are like, wow, dualcaster combo, huh? And I didn't know it was going to be as good as it was. We played a few games. I'd like to talk a little bit about the dichotomy of how the decks play against each other in a moment, because a motif started to appear, because we played 4 games with these decks. And let's just say I'm really happy that these decks are going to exist outside of this isolated pod that we played in, because I want to see how these decks work outside of the circumstances that this pod created. But before we get into anything else, let's go ahead and review the game really quick. In no particular order, I'll save myself for last because I won the game, and I really didn't do anything very miraculous. You guys saw it, but we'll talk about it anyway. I want to start by talking about Guy. Guy was playing Killian, and I honestly believe he has one of the coolest decks in the pod. But because of what Calvin's doing, Guy has a lot of trouble participating in the game. His commander is really good at protecting itself from everything but edicts. So if Guy gets caught with his pants down and only has his commander, Calvin's going to cause him to sacrifice his commander a lot, because Guy went Killian on 2 and then Spectral Ward on 3, and he started to like clobber Calvin, and this was because Guy knew that Calvin's game plan was inherently good against him. Guy continued to do some cool stuff late game, like playing the Sigil of the Empty Throne and the Archon of Sun's Grace. But the one thing that really stuck out to me is he doesn't play like any mana ramp, because Killian's kind of an insane amount of mana ramp himself. He just generates so much value with the cost reduction. But Guy just fell behind because of what the pod of decks did, specifically what Calvin's deck did. I want to talk about Calvin's deck next. He was playing Extus, or Lord Voldemort. It's like the big bad guy of the School of Mages, and wow. His deck was really neat. I liked it a lot. He didn't win a single game he played out of the 4 games, and I think that's because of the way the pod was set up, because he's pressured so hard by both Guy and Ajdin. Because Ajdin's deck also really doesn't want Calvin's deck to be casting the Blood Guy either, because you'll notice that Ajdin never casts Codie. But Calvin was able to consistently, I think he awakened the Blood Avatar 4 times that game. It was impressive. He dealt a ton of damage. It just didn't wind up being enough. And that's because, much like Guy's game plan's halted by what Calvin's doing, Calvin's so loud and noisy that he gets teamed up on very quickly. So I think that power level of Calvin's deck was like both too high and a little bit too low, depending on what angle you're looking at it from. What it does is very linear and powerful, but it's also fairly easy to disrupt. Next up, I want to talk about Ajdin and Codie. He did not win this game. Anyone who's watching this video, this should be coming out tonight, is Friday night. Right now, as I record this, it's about 7 p.m. So you guys will probably be seeing this video around 10 or 11 p.m. Eastern time. Which means, at this time, you should be able to go to MTG the Stack Rebound. I'll leave a link in the description and maybe a card. And you can see this game played again live, just isolated, it's just that one game. And there's a different outcome. But it's one of 2 outcomes. Either I win this pod or Ajdin wins this pod. That's how it's been going as we play this pod of decks. And that's because either I just sit there and watch everyone fight Calvin and wait until I can combo kill, or Ajdin does the same thing, except for he's more of a proactive control deck. So he's able to kind of force the issue because he plays cards like Thawing Glaciers, or not Thawing Glaciers, Glacial Chasm. But Ajdin's performance wasn't super good this game. He did some really weird stuff like the Doom Blast I just don't think was very good. I don't think he thought about it. This was the first time he played the deck. We went with the first game because the outcome, A, I won it on the editor, and B, not really. The ones that Ajdin won were just very hard to edit, and he was the only other winner we could find in the pod. But other than that, there's not much to say about what Ajdin's deck did. The Soothsaying was cool. He cast Approach with no way to really rush to it, unfortunately. The Soothsaying would have been good, but like Calvin had the pressure to keep on Ajdin, so he couldn't actually cast Approach. will move to me. There may have been some stuff that you guys thought was weird as you watched the game, like why did I keep redeploying Rootha knowing it was going to die? There was a reason for that. Every time I cast Rootha, I should have been using Path, because from turn 3, I had the dual caster combo in my hand, but I didn't have a really good outlet to like make sure I would be able to win. I really needed that practical research, and I did not cast Rootha with Path of Ancestry like the 3rd time I cast her, so it was just like dumb. It just looked a bad use of mana, and that's because I'm not the greatest Magic player ever. And then later in the game, you'll notice that I did pitch the Metallurgic Summonings that I got off of long-term plans, and that's because as I peeled cards, the top 2 cards of my library, I drew into my combo. So the Metallurgic Summonings was no longer necessary, but finding land drops was. I could have executed the combo with a very low amount of mana, but I had a feeling someone would try to interact with it, but no one did, so we got lucky. I won. Like, once you generate infinite mana in an Izzet deck, as long as you have something to be doing, you can usually win, and Rootha let me get away with murder. If I didn't have Rootha, I probably couldn't have kept going, but I was able to keep deploying Rootha, bouncing it, and copying my spells, which allowed me to dig so far into my deck that I found an X spell, killed someone, then used Crackle with power to kill everyone else. It was great. That's how the game went. That's all I got as far as the game review goes. I hope you guys like the mats. The color correction was really difficult because they're a deep blue, but next week, literally next week, look forward to an announcement on where you can pick these mats up if you like them, and maybe another version of the mat. I'm just trying to get all this information out here. Anyone who stayed this late in the video, this outro has been almost 6 minutes long. The game was about 18 minutes long. The intro must have been 2 minutes long, so you're like 25 minutes in or something. So you get to know secrets. Welcome to Secret Time with Neon Mushroom. We have the big Strixhaven game coming. We're getting ready to record it this coming weekend, and we're using the dragons from Strixhaven. I won't say too much about who's playing what dragon. If you know us, you can probably figure it out fairly quickly. I'm really excited. We really like our decks. We gave ourselves $500 budgets, and if you hang out on our Architect, you may have already seen the lists, so don't go click the link in our banner. I think there's more stuff I'm supposed to say. Check out MTG the Stack Rebound, but my head's cluttered because of how busy we've been. So that's all I'm going to have for you guys today in an attempt to not let this video hit a half an hour. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I will see you next time.
He's throwing shit. I think you should attack him.
No, there's nothing wrong with the face. I just think it's lacking in knocks. But that's not Calvin's fault.
Knock, knock, knocking on Calvin's face.